everybody. This is Bevan. Welcome to Bevan, a femme over 40 and her friends podcast. I'm your host, Bevan. I'm here with my co-host, Biscuit Reynolds. I've said my name 3 times. It's time to start the show. Today, I'm welcoming back once again my friend Deidra. She was on episode 5. If you want to hear the backstory of her life, how she was raised in Mormonism, came out, and then ended up meeting a man and getting married to a man. And it's a really tremendous story. She's a homeschooling mom and started the Glowing Goddess Getaway. You can hear about the foundations of that community that I talk about so much. And on episode 74 with Deidra, and I'm going to put links to both of these episodes in the show notes, she talks about plants. And so we talk about entheogenic uses of plants to connect to God. We also talk about eating plants. She loves to talk about plant-based food. And of course, we talk more about that today. Today in this episode, I really wanted to get Deidra's thoughts on rest. She had the COVID, and when she came back to the community after a long absence, when you're used to seeing someone like most days, and she came back and she was just like a rest evangelist. She's like, here I am, and I have never rested so much, and I'm here to tell you rest is the answer. And so I wanted to talk about that and all the things she learned. And I think we can really learn a lot about listening to our bodies by also honoring our rest cues. And we truly need more rest than we possibly think. When I got laid off from my job in 2008, I finally learned for the first time what it was like to feel fully rested, because I didn't have to get up and go to work. And it changed my life, and it changed how I interact with rest. And I'll tell you, I'm a solid 9.5 hours at night, sleep down most nights. And it's really, really good for me. I think it's one of the greatest things I do for my mental, emotional, and physical and spiritual health. So we talk about that. We also talk about air frying vegetables, which maybe that's a niche interest, but I just got an air fryer. And so I'm like, let's talk about what we can do to eat and nourish ourselves. And Deidra loves food, and like I love to eat plants, and I love to find tasty ways to eat plants. So I'm really excited to utilize my air frying lifestyles under the guidance of my dear friend Deidra. So I'm excited for you to connect to this conversation. We really went a lot of great places, and I think it's going to help you level up your life in some way, and hopefully alter your perspective a little bit about what you think is possible in your life. And really, I want you to listen to the ideas of uncertainty. Uncertainty is the only thing that's true. The idea that things are going to be the same tomorrow is simply an illusion. And if you've ever had your job pulled out from under you, I think you can probably relate to like suddenly the oh shit feeling of like, I don't know what happens next. And being an entrepreneur kind of feels like you're in this jolly free fall, but that's kind of a life well lived. It's a jolly free fall, a life in alignment, and a life, because uncertainty is also on the other side, possibility. And that is so great. And if you can focus in the possibilities versus on worrying is literally, I talk about this at Fat Kid Dance Party all the time. Worrying is literally using your imagination to come up with worst case scenarios, and you can always come up with good things that are possible. And those of us out there who are like doing our thing and presenting our own stuff to the world, that's kind of utilizing your possibilities mindset. What's possible, right? Entrepreneurs are paid to solve problems. And so I love that mindset, and I love this conversation with Deidra, and I hope that you enjoy it. I hope you get a lot out of it. Please shoot me an email, fatkiddanceparty@gmail.com, if any of this is inspiring to you, or you just want to share your thoughts. I love to hear it. And there's also a little audio thingy on anchor.fm/Bevan. That's my podcast website with all the episodes. And also a great way to send me a little voice note. I'd love to hear what you're thinking about in these episodes as you're kind of expanding what you're believing is possible for you. Before we get started with Deidra on our virtual porch, I want to tell you what is the best way to support this podcast, which is my Patreon page, Patreon, patreon.com/FKDP, which stands for Fat Kid Dance Party, which is my aerobics class for anyone who feels left behind by mainstream fitness. If you've ever been called too much, too fat, or felt too awkward to dance, mine is the supportive class for you. I teach on Zoom every week on Saturdays, and I teach a couple weeknight classes every month. And all of my Zoom classes are included at $7 a month, which is the lowest and the entry level tier. There's also the sustaining tier, which is $25 a month, and that includes on-demand aerobics classes. I used to film my tour classes back when touring was safe and it wasn't a global pandemic. Right now I'm hiking into the woods and filming those classes in the woods. So it's kind of like you get to work out outside with me. I love moving outside. I think that's the most natural thing for our bodies to do, is to be in movement outside. And physiologically, we actually need 2 hours of outside movement every day. Isn't that wild? We're definitely not raised to believe that, but that's actually what we need in order to thrive. We also need a lot of rest in order to thrive. And we're not taught that either, because that disrupts capitalism. And I also like getting to create this membership that creates self-care for you. I'd love to support people in their self-care. I love to create this podcast, and I'm only able to do this because of the support of my members. So thank you so much to everyone who supports. Thanks to everyone who's gonna support. I'm so grateful to get to do this and to have, to be able to use my privilege to stay at home and stay out of the stream of COVID so that I can help be in community care, because this is really something we're only going to solve together. And I think America specifically is suffering from this toxic individualism where it's really everyone for themselves instead of thinking about how what they do affects other people. And the more we mutate this virus, the harder it is for us to control it and learn to live with it. We need air quality in every workplace. We need high quality masks, N95, freely available for people. Even though tests aren't totally accurate, we still should have those freely available for everyone. And also social distancing, staying home, only doing the things you really, really, really want to do. I like to ask myself, is this how I want to get COVID? Whenever I'm thinking about doing something that creates risk, right? Like, and I'm really grateful to have been a queer adult and really normalized sexually transmitted infection discussions. You know, it's like, is this the time I don't want to wear the condom? You know what I mean? And risk my life or other people's lives, right? Anyway, those are my thoughts. Patreon.com/FKDP. I can't stop thinking about it or talking about it, because whatever influence I can use to help people make safer decisions and have community care instead of just self-care. Self-care is important, but so is community care. And I just want to encourage you to make those moral decisions that are right for you and have the hard conversations. Our relationships are only as good as the hard conversations we're willing to have. So with that, I hope you imagine that you're on my virtual front porch. We're in some cozy wicker furniture. You're cuddling up with your favorite childhood blanket with me and Deidra. On with the show. Enjoy. And I'll see y'all next week. Welcome to the podcast, Deidra.
Hi.
Yay. I'm so excited.
Here.
I'm happy that you're here. What a great coincidence. Deidra, I always like to start business in the front, and I want you to tell people, what is Discord? What does it mean? What do you do there? How do you get there?
Okay, so Discord is like this app you can download for free, and it puts you in contact with communities who can like impromptu show up for live FaceTime kind of things, like in a big chat room, but it's like your face and your voice. And then it also provides like different organized sections for conversations and photo shares and memes and videos and all kinds of things. And we have organized our Glowing Goddess Getaway communities own Discord servers so that we're there as a group of Canna sisters glowing the fuck up and having literal daily sister sessions. There are 1 to 2 dozen women every day getting together to sister sesh on our Discord, like in real life, like in real time, like together, not just like leaving a trail for each other, kind of like social media does, but like actually like you and I are meeting now together.
Just like this. It is very similar to Zoom. And what's cool about it is it's also a website. Like that's how I started when we first started doing Discord. I didn't know
what? I thought it was only an app.
No, literally discord.com. You log in, everything is there. And like, then you can see, and when there's a lot of people on the thing, it's way cooler on the computer because you can see everybody instead of, because on the app, on the computer, your rectangle only shows so many people. At a certain point, the squares can only be so small and you have to scroll up and down. I don't know. I don't have an iPad, so I don't know what that's like, but for saline, I think it's really
That's what I've been using is the iPad, same. And you still have to scroll, you know. But the computer, you're saying, will break it down so everyone will stay on your screen.
Yes.
Delightful. Thank you for that Discord hack.
It's just as easy as
Turns out you can create a whole community on Discord and not know even half the things about it.
Exactly. And Discord is really fascinating because I think the functionality is slightly different on computer, the phone app, and the iPad app. So, but I think it's great for many reasons. First of all, I am always drawn to things for community and for service. And so if my people are in my phone in an app, I'm going to learn the app, right? And also, I think that allowing your brain to be adaptable and allowing your spirit to be adaptable is the key to living a happy life. Like if you expect, I mean, nothing in nature stays the same. Why would you, right? It's just a false perception that the world is supposed to stay the same.
Absolutely.
And
besides the fact that it gets you away from social media, and social media is becoming an increasingly more difficult environment to navigate for creators and communities, and an increasingly less safe space for everybody, and an increasingly more advertisement driven, where we're seeing more things in our feed that are ads or suggestions than even like the people we follow and enjoy and are trying to like connect with using these social media apps. Discord gives you a place where the algorithm's gone. Like it's over. Like you are just directly peer-to-peer connected. There's no one controlling or curating. There's nothing prioritizing. Like it's just like in real time feed, chronological feed of what your community is saying, and everyone's voice is equal and everyone can, it's so much better. So much better.
It's so much better. And like, we're doing so much creative stuff. Like I talk about the Glowing Goddess Getaway all the time on this podcast. I talk with other people that I've met through the Glowing Goddess Getaway on this podcast. Deidra is the person who created this community to start with as a series of retreats that were like, a few a year. And so like, I loved it, particularly because I grew up like as a young adult going to a feminist festival every year. And that was really centering and grounding to get to be outside with people for like a week. And then when I became staff, it was 2 weeks a year. And that was so grounding. But then when I found the GGG, and like, it's not weeks, it's weekends, but it's like multiple times a year, and you get that fill up of community. And now the Discord is like all of these people I love in my living room with me, and
every day.
And
like that was the challenge, was like, how do we maintain community between getaways? Because like on social media, we could be like, oh, hi, it's the Deidra and Saline. Oh, we can have Bevan on sometimes, and Mindy, but like we couldn't really connect as a community. On Discord, we're at a round table. Everyone's voice is heard. Everyone's square is the same. It's so nice.
And we can like micro niche into our interests, because the Glowing Goddess Getaway is a women's community. I call it a women's cannabis self-care retreat. Like it's kind of like, that's where we all kind of intersect. And then we're all different. We all bring different strengths and interests to the table. But now we're like, we have an astrology club that has tarot classes and full moon and new moon circles. We have a plant club, which by the way, Deidra, you missed this whole conversation, but we talked about our COVID gardens this year and how we're planning them now. Right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know the first thing about strategically planting a garden, but I know a lot of people who do. And so now I'm going to like, right. And of course you, Deidra, you're like my plant expert. And by the way, I'd need to FaceTime you and show you my plant in my bathroom.
I love that.
Why get an app to talk to you about your plants when you can just have a friend?
Yeah, I way better. I'll have way more fun. Fun for everyone.
Exactly. And like, I think we're doing some incredible stuff, like empowering people and exchanging ideas, and like also just the emotional support of like people going through a hard time and like being able to be there for each other. And really the culture of the GGG, I think, is the most valuable asset, which is, witnessing the divinity in one another and holding each other to our 5 high standards. Deidra, do you want to tell everyone what the 5 high standards are?
Totally. So the 5 high standards are the way that we organize our community, really, because it allows us to set an intention and a safe space for our community. So the 5 high standards are self-love. Starts with self-love, peeps, always. Bevan's telling you all the time, and she's so right. Self-love, inclusivity, empathy, good fun, and mindfulness. And with using those as our like directive and our ethical guideposts, our value system, we're able to create not only a safe space for everyone, but a framework for decision making as a community. It like guides all and informs all of our perspectives. So when we're like, oh, what should we do? We reference it and we have a place to go. And those 5 high standards have consistently proven to be, since 2016 when we started, like really the answer every time to creating a safe, inclusive, intersectional, empathetic, mindful community who's here to glow up and have a good time, you know?
Yes, absolutely. And if people want to join the GGG and get in on this Discord, how do they do it, Deidra?
So easy. You just go to patreon.com/glowinggoddessgetaway. You can't search Patreon for us because we're over 18 content. So you absolutely have to say patreon.com/glowinggoddessgetaway. And then you can join our Patreon. You can follow along for free. Join our Discord for free is what we're working on right this second, is creating a whole free part of our Discord so we can connect with everybody. And
how do we feel about calling it the front porch?
I love it. I love the front porch, but I wondered how that would fit with like the main stage and like the campfire and you know what I mean? So we'll have to figure that out, but maybe, yeah, that's definitely the idea, is we're inviting people to hang out with us on the front porch. Maybe not come inside.
Mixing genders, right? Like, so it's a free access, but like also like interacting with like, because, you know, we have great couples retreats where people of all genders come and of course, like if you're goddess identified or woman identified, you're welcome in the G. And we don't look for anything other than your decision that's where you belong, right?
That's right. So, that you identify as a goddess, like she said, and that this is where you want to be, because then that's where we want you to be.
Exactly.
So 5 high standards, everyone. What were we saying?
I don't know.
Something.
Patreon.
Okay. So so you can join our Patreon for as little as $4.20 a month. And then it goes up from there up to $42 a month, where you get a getaway in a box, where you're really experiencing every month the virtual or in real life getaways with us and getting everything you need to play along, as well as every month some awesome goddess gifts from our Canna Sister community. So many cool things to help you glow up, so much goddess gear, so much fun stuff.
There are so many talented people who intersect at the getaways. It's not just like people who are like the teachers, the goddess guides, but it's also like just the community. And you put this on Patreon intentionally because there were a few of us that were already on Patreon, and you were like, this will make it, because Patreon just charges you once. So you join as many Patreons as you want. They give you a tally and check you out on the first of the month, and then you get access. And many Patreon people have Discords. I was told by someone, just slid into my DMs on Fat Kid Dance Party like maybe a year ago and was like, hey, you should be way more famous than you are. And I was like, agree. And then she said, have you ever thought about adding a Discord to your Patreon? Lots of Patreon providers do that. And I was like, what's Discord? So she offered to hop on a Zoom with me. She set it all up for me. It's so cool. And like now it's our virtual locker room for Fat Kid Dance Party. And like it's so easy to just pop from there over to the Glowing Goddess Getaway and to like all the other little communities I'm in. And I really think Discord is the wave of the future, and Patreon and Discord are such a great way to create an alternative economy that keeps your money in the communities that matter to you. And like money is just energy in 3D form. And I love that a person can come into the Glowing Goddess Getaway and then find and be nourished by so many creators because we have this vibrant community. It's like a mycelium network.
Yeah, we're doing all kinds of things. You know, we're doing cannabis and movement, cannabis and food. You know, like we're doing a laughter club where we're like connecting as adult theater kids who want to create something again, you know. It's just like we're just having so much fun in all these different ways and learning from each other all the time, and just creating a safe space for women to have more honest conversations than they can have on the socials where things are heavily censored. So it's just important to find private communities where you can connect, you know?
Yeah, and Discord was started by gamers in the gamer community, which I find to be like revolutionary allies. And Patreon was started by YouTube creators who are also allies in creating and allowing people to support your creations. And so I think those are really great places for me as a creator to be investing my time and inviting my community to be there with me in order to just give options for folks who find social media draining or a bummer. You know what I mean? There's just
not uplifting and like not actual connection. You know, like everyone says a lot about social media, how it's not deep connection, and Discord has been nothing but deep connection because it's providing a place. Like I didn't used to FaceTime with my friends, but like now I can be like, hey, you want to sesh? And like, it's so easy. We meet up on Discord in like a private campsite, you know, that's what we call them because we're at the Glowing Goddess Getaway, which is a cannabis camping retreat. So, so we meet up at our private campsites, you know, and we have these little spaces where we can just meet up and talk, you know, and be there with each other. And that's a really big deal because it normalizes really integrating this technology into our daily life and our daily experience, which is like enriching our connections to look and talk to somebody. Like that's a lot, you know. I miss Bevan because Bevan and I live hundreds of miles apart. But when I get to regularly Discord with her and, you know, like, and do this, then when we see each other, it's a joyous reunion, but it doesn't require such desperate catching up.
Yeah, because we're really in the day-to-day life with each other in a way that's just so special and appreciated in my life. It's been such an uplift in this like later pandemic that like we get to hang out so much. And it's also
I've only experienced connection like this when I lived in a dorm in college. You know, where I got to
has dishes arguments with each other because we don't live together.
So it does make it way better. And I'm way older, so I appreciate it so much more.
I also think being older helps with Discord because it is very similar to early internet. It is like forums and chat rooms and things like that. And imagine if the chat rooms on AOL in the 90s like just had a video component. This is exactly what we're doing. You're just randomly showing up with people maybe from Tennessee. There's usually, if there's a new goddess, we welcome them. We also have these idea storms together. We've been doing this sesh called Questioning Reality every Friday night because of your reaction to my podcast with Leah Garza. And you were like talking about just the concept of reality. And we were like, we need to just start questioning reality with cannabis. And
and she's a deontologist.
An ontologist, not deontologist. Well, she's ontologist. Ontology is just studying the reality constructs that we live in. So she's deconstructing.
Such a good podcast. What number is that one? Do you know?
I'm pretty sure it's 109. It might be 107.
Dude, it's worth your time. It's so good.
If you're on the YouTube watching this, I'll put it as the next suggested at the end. So you can just flow right into that with me and Leah Garza. It's a really good conversation that changed my life. Like I was like,
well, and what I realized is like I was smoking weed. I've had friend circles where we'd smoke weed and do that, just deconstruct reality, have those conversations. And so I'm just really stoked to have a place in my life to be doing that again. It's magic. It's really magic. Everything we're doing over there, like it really has allowed the community to like self-develop, you know, and to be really a community, and leadership just to emerge and to take the reins and say, let's do this. I want to teach that. I want to develop this, because that's what we are as a community, you know, like this isn't like focused on me or on saline. It's just the community. So it's been really awesome to see leaders emerge that I wouldn't even have had the wherewithal to like bring them into the spotlight, maybe at an in real an in-person retreat because I didn't know they had that facet to them until being on Discord, like she said, on a more daily basis and stuff, and them initiating themselves and choosing to take that role. It's been so exciting. It's been so exciting as a leader to just like watch the whole community be filled with strong leadership. I think it's makes our community really unique and special.
I think it really does. I'm so grateful that you started this and that you've been flexible and adaptable enough to just let it flow and like support emergent leadership rather than like being like, no, I need to control everything. I need to be there, because you're a busy homeschooling mom with like 8 businesses and kids and a poly triad. Like, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, I have a very full life and I do love it that way. I'm not gonna lie. I do love it that way. But yeah, I definitely don't need to control this community because the value of the community is women's connection with each other.
Mhm.
And like that feels like a calling, like to help women connect with each other, to facilitate safe connection, to role model and you know, hold space for that safe connection, for those 5 high standards to be our guide in our connections, our relationships, our leadership, our inspiration, everything in the community. And so, yeah, I'm so thrilled. Like, I'm so thrilled to see women at the getaway, from the getaway in the community who want to become. This is your space. Like, it is the space to become. It's so exciting.
And being around other people who are growing is really great, because I'm a person who's green and growing, and like, it's nice to have friends who are adaptable and like don't expect you to stay the same as you were in college and or at work or whatever. Like, these are people who are like chosen family and supportive, and I mean, and also like the newest person rolling in is totally welcome, and there's always room in the sesh for one more. I love
always room in the sesh for one more.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so Deidra, I want to talk about air frying. You're an air frying evangelist and a plant eating evangelist, and I would love to hear your favorite things to air fry and if you have any recipes.
Okay, so I turned to air frying because I love fried food and I have gallbladder disease, so my body does not love fried food. So me and my body had a talk and we have negotiated and landed on air frying. It is the greatest thing ever. I love it. So my favorite thing to air fry is potatoes. Number one, potatoes. I love potatoes. They're my favorite food. And my favorite way to eat a potato is fried. Like, I love a roasted or fried, crispy, yummy on the outside, crunchy, salty, delicious, golden brown, and then puffy, soft, pillowy potato on the inside, soft and wonderful. Oh, I love a potato. Love it in the air fryer. Makes it sing.
How do you chop it up before you put it in the air fryer?
Okay, so many different ways, and I love them all. First of all, I literally bought a French fry cutter after buying my air fryer because
I was thinking
like
that might be my next step.
Yeah, legit. It's like a $30 purchase. It wasn't like a true commitment,
Okay.
but it attaches to my counter, you know, suctions, and I like put the potato in and like pull down the lever, and I've got nothing but French fries. It's just like the one at In-N-Out that's wall mounted. Yeah, I mean, not as fancy. Theirs, I'm sure, is much more expensive and heavy duty, but it's wonderful. I can send you a link. So that's my favorite way because it just makes French fries, and I love a French fry because French fries are the ultimate vehicle for a good dip. And as we talked, I love a good dip. It's all about a good dip. So
I called her dip identified before the podcast, and she was like, is that a mental health thing? And I was like, no, I'm talking about the dips that you eat, because you like to eat things that are a vehicle for dip. And I want all your recipes.
Oh, dude, it's pretty universal. It's all about the dip. people are like, oh, vegetables. And I'm like, it's okay. We're going to make a dip. Like it's not, don't freak out. It's going to be so good.
What kind of dips do you like?
Really all of them, but particularly my favorite kinds of dips are like herby and pungent. So ranchy, really, because I want it to be like garlicky and lemon and herbs. And that really is ranch, you know? And so whether or not you add the creamy aspect or you go like vinaigrette more, like I don't care. I love that profile. And I like it go dill, go ranchy, go cilantro, go like Southwest, you know, like I just love a good herbaceous, something yummy to dip in, tangy.
Okay, so what are some pantry staples that one would have in order to be a dip master?
Well, if you want to be a plant-based dip master.
That's what I mean, plant-based dip master. As someone who's very sensitive to dairy, she likes a plant-based.
Totally. So raw cashews.
Okay.
That's like my number one thing because raw cashews are my dairy. They're my milk, they're my sour cream, they're my sweet cream, they're my savory cream, they're my base in soups. Like really I use them for everything. So raw cashews is my number one thing. Yep. And then I'm just always trying to make sure to have fresh herbs in my refrigerator so that I can let the, you know, kind of be inspired by what I'm making. And so I love cilantro, green onions, parsley. I know people sometimes think of it only as a garnish, but it's an actual flavor profile. And if you're doing anything Mediterranean or Middle Eastern, even curry is like a parsley chutney, you know? And then wait, cilantro, green onions, garlic, and then what are they called? Leeks. I love a caramelized leek in a dip. I know. Okay. Because some herbs want to be cooked, but some want to be raw. And I find when you marry the two, like magic happens. And then you put like a cashew creamy base on that and just like, what? Are you kidding? Like, it's just so good. Yeah.
Okay. What kind of vinegars do you like?
Balsamic's my personal fave. I keep both white and dark around because like the dark stains certain foods and my kids have aversions to that. Like I'm just trying to keep it real. So I keep like a white balsamic around too for things that I'm trying not to stain. I also like to keep a rice vinegar around because I love a vinegar, soy, garlic, ginger. Oh, you got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. Just like that's all it takes for real. And like everything tastes like authentic and fresh. And it's such a good trick. I love all the tricks.
So many good tricks. And what kind of oils do you keep around? I know you probably don't use a ton because of the gallbladder, but
I don't use a ton, but I have a couple of real favorites because of the gallbladder. So I love walnut oil because it is the most neutral, light, like it's not heavy at all, has no heavy mouthfeel, super light, and has a high smoke point. So walnut oil is really ideal for like sautés, you know, things that have to be tossed in oil and put in the air fryer or brushed with oil and put in the air fryer. I love it. And it doesn't impose any flavor on anything. And it also is better at not leaving like that. Sometimes when oils are overheated, not sometimes, always when oils are overheated, they transsaturate if they're overheated for what they can stand, which causes them to turn into a solid, right? So you get like that stuff that sticks on your pans and it's really hard to clean. And I don't have time for that. So I love walnut oil because it doesn't transsaturate, which is unhealthy, but also makes it easier to clean. So that's my favorite. And then ghee is a close second.
I love that.
Not plant-based. It really isn't plant-based, but it does lack casein. So if you have a dairy intolerance, you will not have a ghee intolerance because casein is the milk protein that causes dairy intolerance.
I love that. I also have found that if I use the grass-fed butter, Like the Kerrygold.
It's easier on you.
It's easier on me. The Kerrygold from Costco, I think, is the best way. I know you love Costco. Like I love Costco.
I do. And that is a delicious butter.
Also Irish. So, I feel like my ancestors are happy when I eat the happy cow.
Same.
From Ireland.
Literally every time I eat kale or cabbage, I'm like, this is the food of my people. Potatoes, kale, and cabbage. I'm like,
yeah.
Oh, I love it because I'm Irish.
I mean, I think there is definitely something to potatoes, and homeland foods, that really, especially in the winter time, bake a potato.
Yeah, we go through a lot of potatoes at our house. We have potatoes at least once a day. Breakfast potatoes are one of our favorites because nothing's better than, I don't even do them in the air fryer, but I do like skillet potatoes, with very little oil, and find great success. It doesn't require a lot.
Okay, so what's your skillet potato recipe?
So little oil, it's shockingly little oil, right? And then cube potatoes that I dry with paper towels or a tea towel, right? And then, dude, Montreal steak seasoning is such a legit hack. You can also get it at Costco. The reason it's a hit is because it's a coarse garlic pepper blend. So it can stand up to a long saute, like you do with a skillet potato, because that's how you get that home style potato feel. It's cooked forever. It's really just keeps moving and browning and going for a long time. And so Montreal will stand up to that and still give you a nice, and there's salt in it. It's salt, pepper, and garlic all in one shake. I love it for a high heat roast, what they're using it for, because it stands up to a high heat grill on a steak. I love it for vegetables for the exact same reason.
Do you put anything else in there, like bell peppers or onions?
Yeah, I put in onions, but not until the end, because they'll just completely blacken if you start with them. So you have to end with them. And they also prevent the potatoes from browning real good because of all the moisture content. Oh. So you have to dice them good, put them at the end. I've made so many potatoes, lady.
Yeah.
Dice them good, put them at the end. And just you can choose how you like them. If you like them with a little brown, or if you like them where they get so brown, they disappear and are stuck to the potatoes. There are varying degrees. And so you just put them in as early as you want.
Wow.
At the end.
You've totally changed the way I think about preparing skillet potatoes, because I found that I needed to bake them ahead of time and then dice them up. I also like to squish them and have them just be, and then that way they fry up with the onions. But I use a ton of oil, which is fine for me, but I am so intrigued by this new possibility.
Because everything I do is to reduce the oil, right? I'm trying to dry them, keep them crispy, reduce the oil, less moisture, so I don't have to use more oil. It's all about, but it does make a really nice texture, and they're so good on burros. I love a skillet potato on a burrito, breakfast burrito, bean burrito, veggie burrito. Skillet potatoes belong in them. I also like them in place of croutons over a salad. Holy cow, so good.
Wow. See, this is why we're friends for many reasons, including your epic delight and joy of food, and nourishing yourself and your family, and also your low-key hatred of dishes and making things harder than they need to be. This is my life. This is what I want. I want to flow through life and not have things be hard.
Same, dude. I need it to be easy because it's so delightful when it is.
And I don't like doing my dishes, but I do like talking to my friends. And so I love to go on a sister sesh and just do my dishes and hang out with my friends. That has been such a
that's awesome. It helps you get it done. That's so wonderful.
Even listening to a podcast is not as fun as just being distracted by chatting with people. So
yeah, it's next level.
I pray for a day when I don't have to do my dishes. It's coming for all.
I know it is. By the time I'm 50, dishes will be like, I'll be done with them for the rest of my life.
Yeah, the
For
dishes
the rest
are
of my
done,
life.
man.
Yeah.
That's what we're gonna say. We're gonna have like a dishes freedom party. We'll have you smash a
We can
dish
do it.
with a sledgehammer ceremonially and be like, I never have to do my own dishes again. Okay, my next question for you. As someone who has survived the COVID, which it was brought into your home unknowingly through, do you want to explain how you got it? I think it's always helpful for people to hear, just so people know how to.
Okay, so this was a few months ago, and I feel like every month has a new COVID vibe, like legit. Like I feel like every month, like we're like course correcting and figuring out like, what am I doing in the vid? How do I feel about the vid? Where am I at with the vid? You know, and sometimes we're over it. Sometimes we feel afraid of it. Sometimes we're like, feel fearless of it. So a couple months ago, before we knew about Omicron,
right. I feel like it's so question mark. I was thinking about this morning. I was like, I wonder if Deidra had Omicron. Don't know.
Well, I lost my taste and smell, so it's hard to say. It's hard to say. Okay, but the point is right before we knew about it, and that there was a new highly contagious, variant going around, which has it created more caution again, which is delightful. I do love more caution.
I just want to say, you have been so cautious and so mindful and so cautious, and like, of course, getting COVID is not a moral failure, but I want to say that out loud just to make sure people hear that. Like, it just, you can be hella cautious, and then one little slip, one time without the condom on, and suddenly you're pregnant, you know?
Amen. And I do love the parallel with sexual health, because I feel like this is the kind of conversations we need to be having with STIs.
Yeah.
You know, like it just needs to be like these common, easy, fluid conversations where we're like, you know, are you tested, and how did that go? And you know, like, let's be open about it.
How much do I trust you? How much am I willing to put my physical health for the rest of my life into your hands for a 15-minute experience? Which, by the way, if you're having 15-minute sex, you're doing it wrong. But I think a lot of people make life-changing decisions in about 15 minutes.
Absolutely. That's why you have to be present. You can't go on autopilot. You have to be present. So my partner, he was out with friends at an outdoor place, because that's like the only way we're connecting is outside, right? Like, we're really trying to do this. And because they were outside connecting, he didn't put a mask on to go into the bathroom. Like, he didn't even think of it, but he went into the bathroom, and the place was very crowded inside, and there were lines to the bathroom. And so like, he had this like really vulnerable period that he didn't even expect and wasn't aware he was creating for himself. You know what I mean? Like, it just kind of happened, as it does. So he was maskless inside, waiting for a bathroom in a line, and nobody in his group. That's why he thinks that's when the exposure happened, because nobody else in his group got it. He didn't get it from the group of people he connected with. They practiced, like, they were outside, and they sat apart from each other to try to like create and keep a distance and feel good about it. Because a few of them have had it and did not love it and do not want it again. So like, everyone's trying to be careful, but even when you're trying to be careful, like, you can't be just trying to be careful. Like, you have to be vigilant with COVID. Like, it's such a different game than like, oh, my intention, look what we did, look how many things we got right. Like, it's a B+. No, it doesn't matter. Like, you have to be vigilant, you know? Maybe it's
I like what you said about, you have to be so present and mindful. I think that is true for life, especially in these chaotic times where people are like running red lights and just being nuts. Like, if you leave 15 minutes early for something, or like do things that involve a lot of buffer time so that you can step away from the grocery aisle because it's crowded. You know what I mean? Maybe even go back to the grocery store another time when it's not so crowded, right? Like all these little micro decisions we can make in order to create more ease and flow in our lives and be more present to flow and creativity are also ways that we can keep ourselves and our communities safe. Because like not only am I protecting myself by protecting myself against COVID, I'm protecting my community from mutating a virus that could potentially kill somebody that I'd have never met. And I don't want that on my conscience. So, okay.
Yeah. So, so he brought COVID to the home. He had no idea he did. This happened in early December. It changed our whole trajectory. And I guess it's important to mention that because it was just like, it really changed everything. And what I mean is, our other partner, Garen started to have some symptoms. He wasn't feeling that good, but we didn't think it was COVID. You know, like we've had a few little like coldy normal scares over the last couple of years, or allergies, or just like a little tickle, you know, just something that you're like, what's going on? You know, you worry, maybe it's COVID, but we thought, no, this isn't anything. And he wasn't feeling anything different than normal. The onset didn't feel, he didn't know. So he felt a little icky. And the next day, our other partner was supposed to fly to Tennessee to go home for the holidays, to visit for the holidays. She was coming back here by Christmas, but still to go visit in early December. And she went ahead and took that flight because, you know, like, why wouldn't she? You know, like what, she was going to cancel everything because he has a tickle that may or may not be something. We don't know. He's getting tested, but we still don't know, you know, like, because the tests aren't or weren't instant available at that time. Crazy, huh? Now everyone can get an instant test mailed to their house for free. You know, like that.
4 tests per household.
Well, 4. You can get 4 tests one time. 4 tests.
Who gets the 4 tests in your household, right? Who's the odd person out? Isn't that wild? They're like, oh, millions of people are dead, but everyone can get 4 tests per house. It's nuts, but like, and also I just want to say this about testing. Testing has never been foolproof. Testing always has false negatives. It's been worse and worse as this virus keeps evolving, and relying
on at-home tests are even worse. Like they have the least successful accuracy.
Yes. And people, I think, are falsely lured into certainty.
Capitalism.
Yeah, because, and they're falsely lured into it because they want to, I mean, it's just like we were talking about, like having a job does not guarantee that you're going to have income next week. You could get laid off today. Like this is something we learned.
Yeah, today's a Friday. Pandemic. That is when people get laid off. Fridays.
Yes, Fridays, exactly. And it's just like when I got laid off on a Friday in 2008, the economy crashed. The next morning, I didn't have a job anymore.
So did I. That's how I ended up in California. 2008, economy crashed. I moved here in 2009. Because Garen and I got laid off like half a dozen times because the companies just kept failing one after another. Like it was so unstable then. And we were like, shoot, if this illusion of a job is this unstable, we might as well be doing this ourselves. You know, like we might as well be entrepreneurs, like, because the reason we didn't want to be entrepreneurs is it felt unstable and scary. And here was corporate America with we had good jobs, good resumes, good benefits, you know, like good. It was easy to get the jobs. Like we just kept getting jobs, but like the companies just kept failing because the economy was so tough at that time. That brought us to California. And right now, we're just looking at it all again, right? Like, is a job worth your life or debilitating yourself in some way, like a permanent, you know, injury from a preventable disease?
Yeah. I mean, full my life right now is like, I could go out and if I got like a little retail job, couple shifts a week, I could make all the money I need to travel the way I want to and be COVID safe this summer. And I still don't want to do it, even though I'm all the way vaxxed as much as I can be. And I take all the non-pharmaceutical interventions I can. I'm like, actually, no, let me just stay safer at home and keep tripling down on the businesses I run already, because it is safer for me to stay out of that stream. And I think it's a super valid choice for people to make, to not risk their lives or their ability, or 2 of their 5 senses. It should be a bigger deal to lose your taste and your smell permanently.
Okay. So we got ours back, but like mine is permanently, well, it's still altered. it's still altered from the beginning of December. I cannot taste or smell 100%.
I am
at
sorry
like,
for your loss, Deidra.
thank you.
In a very
I'm at like
way.
80%. I'm like having my son and my partner who didn't lose, because one of my partners and I both lost, another partner and my son, all of us had COVID in December. Half of us lost our smell and taste, half of us did not. So I'm having them taste things to be sure that I'm tasting things properly and accurately still. Like I'm missing things that other people can smell that I can't, because it's like too subtle for what I have right now. And I don't know if it'll ever come back. And it's, and losing them completely was more disabling than you and I can even say right now. Like it's such a huge deal to lose your sense of smell, and it has nothing to do with taste. You need your sense of smell for everything, to know if something's, like if you're sick, if you're well, if you're clean, if you're, you know what I mean?
Yes. Deidra, I'm sending you Reiki right now for your sense of taste and smell. I am praying for the return. You're one of my favorite cooks. Like if you can't smell or taste, this affects my life directly.
Legit. It's really sad. It's a good thing like I've honed it, but like, you know, so I can have a lot of sense memory that isn't directly tied into taste and smell. But yeah, but it is an impairment for sure. So so I got COVID, it changed me. I had it for weeks. My partners had it for weeks. My kids got it very mildly. But the adults, we were, excuse me.
Wait, but did your partner pass it to her family in Tennessee?
No. Okay. So that's the thing.
Gosh.
Yeah, I know. Well, that was the thing, is it became this like moral weight, like more than even the physical weight of having COVID.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, first of all, she came home on Christmas. She was supposed to be home like by the 12th. She came home on Christmas because she had to wait until she was done with COVID so she could be safe flying, because it's really unethical.
So she flew to Tennessee to see her family, but then ultimately just flew to Tennessee to have COVID. I didn't realize she was there that whole time. Oh, that sucks.
She was there for 3 weeks, more than 3 weeks. And she was in a mask in her home the whole time. You know, which, you know, like, I don't know if you've done that, but when you have to wear a mask at home, like it is a huge bummer. Yeah. It's a huge bummer. And then her and her mom stayed 25 feet apart. That was their distance the whole time. So like, and then her mom was scheduled to start a new job. So she took time off to like be with her while she was at home. And then she was scheduled to start a new job. So then her mom's like, should I not start this new job? Like, is it ethical for me to start, you know? And so she got tested, you know, before she went to work and stuff. And like, it just became this pass along moral albatross that everyone had to carry until the virus had run its course. That is equally as draining. I would almost it's really draining too, just like the physical symptoms.
And I mean, even just living through COVID, you said COVID made me tired when you like reported back, I think for the first time we saw you on Discord on my birthday on December 24th. And I was so glad to see you, but you were like, COVID made me tired. And I was like, COVID makes me tired. Like I have had to sleep so much in this pandemic because the psychic weight of everything going on, the ethical, the moral dilemmas. Like I had an outdoor friend hike with someone the other day and I wore an N95 the whole time because I was like, if something happens where I was COVID exposed, do I want to then have to tell my new friend, hey, I might have exposed you? Or do I just want to wear this mask? I'm going to just wear this mask.
And then my husband had seen our neighbor who is in his 80s, you know, and like hung out with him like in his home while our neighbor taught him about trading. Anyway, was teaching him something.
Was it Bitcoin? Was it NFTs? Was it Beanie Baby?
No, it's like old school stock market stuff. But yeah, dude, my husband, anyway. So like he didn't get it. Luckily, you know, our neighbor didn't get it. We didn't spread it. Nobody got it that we know as a result of us that we exposed, you know, and we quarantined hard, obviously, but My daughter like literally was parentless for weeks, just like on her own. Like, just like
Lucy
doing
is
her own
a fantastic little sprite. Like she is amazing. I can imagine her wandering around talking to herself.
just like on her own. And the weather was garbage, so she could hardly go outside. So she was just like quarantined alone, basically living on snacks. Like she was a total, like feral little, taking care of child in her own home. But you know what I mean? She's just like wandering, and she wasn't even allowed. She had to put on a mask if she wanted to even open our door. And she wasn't allowed to walk in the room. She could just open the door and ask questions and stuff. And like, there was zero connection. We're a very connected family. So this was like really weird for us.
Meanwhile, you're in your bed, just like having these COVID dreams.
Gosh, so many fever dreams, legit, so many. And I slept for more hours than I ever have. Like I've never slept that much, for like that many days, that long, sleeping that much, like sleeping 23 hours a day, most days for days in a row. Like that's crazy. It's a crazy experience. So
and the CDC wants people to go back to work after 5 days. When they're that tired. Like I have read so much about like how to recover from COVID. And like one of the biggest things people say is rest. You really need to sleep so you can heal. Okay. I'm glad you did that.
Real talk, a week after I got COVID, like 1 week. So like, stay home for 5 days a week, whatever. I had to host a getaway, a virtual getaway. Right. And I did.
That's right.
I hosted a virtual getaway, and I did it from bed. And I was exhausted, and it was so hard. And it was supposed to be a 3-day event. We had it for 2 days. I canceled the 3rd day because I just didn't have it. Like, and that was me working from home in my own bed. You know what I mean? Doing something I've done literally like 30 times before, I cannot imagine trying to show up to a public facing frontline worker position in real life, being that tired and full of brain fog. Like it's a real problem. So what I learned from COVID and what really my fever dreams taught me, I really felt like the goddess was with me. Like I did not have fear during my COVID experience. I felt very, very assured that I would make it through, which I had that fear. Like, what if COVID kills me? Like, what if it kills one of my partners? What if it kills us? Like, it could do that because it killed my cousin-in-law just a few months ago. My cousin who I grew up as next door neighbors with our whole lives, her husband passed away in September of COVID. And he's 5 years older than I am. Like, and he's like probably got a very similar BMI to me, like we're in the same shape, and about the same age. And so it felt very possible that COVID posed a life-threatening danger to my family. And we had it, and I felt different. Both of my partners at one point said, just so you know, in case I don't make it, I love you, like I just need you to know, because we didn't know, because there's no way to know. I felt like I knew, like and that was, I feel like because of my spiritual connection, that I felt like I knew that I was going to be okay. And I was, I slept, I leaned into that deep knowing, and I did what I felt like it was telling me to do. So I slept more than anyone else in my house slept. I'm still sleeping more than anyone in my house is sleeping, legit. And I tell him, like, I'm setting goals, like, hey, tomorrow morning, I'm going to try really hard to sleep in until 10, like that's my goal. So we'll see how it goes, because I'm going to really try hard. I need the rest. I'm going to do that. And just reframing rest in a prioritized way where it is as essential as bathing or doing, like feeding my children or doing my work for my community, for my job, and doing my job that I get paid for. So like, it's just as essential now. And that wasn't the way my life was before. And the reason I've made it so essential is because while I had COVID, I slept like sleep was my lover. Like I really, really embraced it. I embraced it wholeheartedly. I enjoyed it. I leaned into it. I relished in it. I am no longer pushing myself, regarding rest in any way, because I do eat a lot of plants and I do live a very active lifestyle, and I do try to stay energetically aligned, and I do try to take my supplements, and still I got the vid, and still I lost my smell and taste, and still I'm dealing with it. And so even though I'm trying to live this way, to promote all these healthy things that are supposed to like help in addition to everything else, vaccinations and masking and quarantining, like trying to really be as proactive as possible. And still I got it. And so I rest. And so I rest, because rest is the greatest way to heal your body. Rest is the greatest way to heal your mind, because if you're slowing down and giving your mind enough time to rest, that promotes mental health, right? And when you're taking lots of time for rest, that means you're making yourself a priority, and it creates a whole new level of self-care and self-love, because you are the priority and your well-being is the priority. Your sleep and rest is the priority. Like I'm openly like, hey, I'm not going to take a nap. I'm just going to go lay in bed. I don't want to be bothered, because rest is a priority, and doing it has been metamorphosizing. Like it's more than been changing. Like it has changed me from a caterpillar to a butterfly. I have changed state in my relationship with reality by prioritizing rest. And I was already someone who mostly only did what I want to do. And still prioritizing rest has shifted the way I engage with my daily to-do list, the way I engage with my obligations for work and family, for my household. It's just changed everything. I cannot say enough, like rest. And I recognize it was a privilege for me to take that time during COVID to rest. But because I am an entrepreneur and I live with uncertainty, I was prepared to live with the uncertainty of how long it would take to get better, how long I would have to be away from work, when I would get paid next, how I would pay my bills, with taking weeks off, because I took weeks off. Yeah, I was emotionally prepared to deal with those bumps. It wasn't all smooth sailing. It's definitely created some bumps, and I'm still like behind in things, but I don't feel bad about that. And it's the first time in my life I've ever been behind without feeling ashamed. So
it always comes down to shame. You told me that
always.
For you, it's always shame. For me, it's always perfectionism.
Those two are besties.
They
Don't
are
kid
besties.
yourself.
Oh,
They
yeah,
like
they're
live and hang out in the same.
I was really inspired when you talked about that space between sleeping and being awake, where you're literally just laying, and how that's a time to talk to the divine. Will you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So a lot of my COVID experience was in that space between sleep and awake, because because when you live in a household filled with people, it's really hard to just be asleep. Especially in the daytime when you're sleeping 23 hours a day, in bed 23 hours a day is probably a more honest way to represent it. But I wasn't like even consuming any media or on my phone. It was literally just eyes closed, resting. So this eyes closed resting place where you're not really asleep and you're not really awake. I know for some people it can be a space of anxiety, right? Like it can cause them to lead to insomnia, really. Like it starts to feel like insomnia. Well, if you're not anxious and you're not like negative spinning out, right? Like going down a negative spiral, I don't think you're staying still either. I think you're going on a positive spiral. So you're going up, right? And that space invites one or the other, just like life does, just like stillness does, just like meditation does. Some people hate meditation because they're just so practiced at going down in the silence in that negative spiral that it just feels like a trap to them, all that silence. But if you can release those fears, if you can get into a good space, if you can listen to something uplifting, whatever that is for you. I really love, and I know our community does, some of these like affirmation musicians, like Tony Jones. I'm sure you guys have talked about it before, about her before here.
I don't think I've talked about Tony Jones on the podcast yet, but I will put my playlist. It's called Worth Ethic, which is based on one of her songs, affirmation music, and I'll put it right in the show notes so you can dive right in. Affirmation music is so good. It's a great way to gain control over your thoughts. So is meditation. Meditation is just practicing walking up the spiral instead of sliding down the spiral.
Yep, totally. So because I had this deep knowing that COVID was okay for me, I didn't go down the spiral at all. Instead, it became like permission to just rest. Like I couldn't do anything. No one expected anything of me. There was no pressure, zero pressure from any direction of anyone I know, while I was sick. And what a gift that was for me, because it gave me the ability to disprove the fearful, anxious lies I was telling myself about what needed to be done. And I think a lot of us have vicious, fearful lies that we tell ourselves about what needs to be done. And I think that you don't have to tell yourself those lies anymore. I think that they're hurting you, and I think you don't have to do it. None of us do. What needs to be done is exactly what gets done. That's what needs to be done, is exactly what gets done. And if it doesn't get done, then it obviously didn't need to be done. And perhaps that may mean you missed a deadline. Perhaps that may mean you disappoint people. Perhaps that may mean you have to reschedule things. But dude, I am watching strong women all over the world lead, show me in leadership roles, aspirational women, that rest is important and that their self-care matters most. Naomi Osaka showed us this last year when she was like, I can't play tennis. I can't compete in this tournament. I won't do it. Like, it's not worth it to me. I'm not doing it anymore. And she dropped out and she canceled her next ones. And she wouldn't be bullied into not taking care of herself and putting her own needs first. And I know that there were a few more women after she did it shortly after that were also doing similar things. And then most recently, I just watched yesterday, Adele posted that she had to reschedule her tour dates that's about to start because of COVID. It's like created so many shortages and people. And she's like, I can't do it. Like I haven't been able to put it together. And she's like, I'm so sorry. I'm embarrassed. I thought I could do this. And I haven't been able to. And just like with so much honesty and grace, be willing to be like, I can't always be who you expect me to be. And that's the lesson, right? Like you have to be who you are and really do what your most authentic priorities are and nurture yourself first and put yourself above everything else, right? I do think it's so ironic that we call it selfish when we're upset with others for not doing what we want them to do and instead doing what they want them to do. And someone else would call that selfish. Like, I feel like the whole word is such a conundrum. Like, it's not even an honest label. It's so dishonest to project at someone else your disappointment in their behavior and pretend like it's a moral failing on their part, you know? So I feel like resting is helping me see through some of these concepts and some of these toxic parts of our capitalistic culture that are allowing me to be more authentic in myself. So
I'm so glad you said all of that. It is baffling to me how many people are willing to put human lives below economic gain. I think it's incredibly ethical that Adele has canceled her tour. I think anybody who's gathering people, I mean, we canceled the Glowing Goddess Getaway for 50 people last year. Two of them.
We canceled for 2 years in a row. Every Glowing Goddess Getaway that we tried to host for the last 2 years has been canceled. We've refunded over 100 tickets, you know, like we just had to not do it. Like it was just a thing, you know. It's not been easy.
No, and this is a small business, unlike, you know, these big concert tours. Like Bjork is trying to go on tour with 200 people in her cast. Like she could kill or disable people who are working with her because of desiring to go on the road, let alone all the people you gather, all the communities you diminish because of people. I mean, and the people who go to the concerts, the big rich people who are touring, they can pay for the private hospitals. They never have to worry about an ICU shortage because they have means to keep themselves alive. It is not okay that we are leaving behind and that indigenous people are absorbing the most COVID impact, and then black
all brown and black people are disproportionately being impacted by this.
It's,
you know, it's classist. It's like COVID is affecting people in classist, racist ways. You know, very classist, racist ways, and it really is just like shining a spotlight on the cracks and the flaws in our society and showing us what needs to be healed, really, more than anything. And I think that there are two parts of this revolution. And the first part's going to be sisterhood every time, because that's the only way for the patriarchy to fall is for sisterhood to rise. Yeah. Like it's just how it works, you know? So sisterhood, I think, is really the answer, but also rest / the fall of capitalism. Like we have to engage with our humanity differently. We have to engage with our humanity differently, because there is nothing humane about for-profit medicine, you know, for-profit incarceration, for-profit education. Well, I mean, not education. I'll leave that one alone, even though we could talk about the institutionalization of education destroying the curiosity in young minds, because nobody's hungry all the time. It's inhumane to feed people constantly. I think it's just as inhumane to feed minds constantly. It is not okay to cram our children full of information.
And nobody learns best sitting still for 8 hours a day and listening to bells. That trains factory workers. Most toddlers are geniuses. And then by the time they're 10 years old, only 2% of kids are geniuses.
Almost everybody's born a genius. Yeah. Almost every human is born a genius, perfect, so filled with capacity, because that's all genius is trying to measure capacity. And we're all born that way. But when you measure a fish by its ability to ride a bicycle, you're not going to get a real accurate representation of ability and worth. And it's a bummer. It's a real bummer.
And we also say the institution of education is why you were exposed to different ideas when you were growing up in Mormonism, which see my previous episodes with Deidra, which I will link below.
Yeah, legit. If it wasn't for education, I would have been in a world of hurt. As well, but that was again in a world pre-internet,
Mhm.
because I think the internet has certainly changed children's abilities to liberate themselves,
Mhm.
to have access. But education is absolutely wonderful. But the institutionalization of everything creates problems. The institutionalization of psychiatry and psychology has created problems. Like, you know what I mean? Like something so good, so trying so hard to understand the human condition and help each other feel better. Like that's all they're trying to do. And the institutionalization of that has created again, racism, classism, like all these poor problematic structures rear themselves in all these institutional settings, which is why it's just so important that communities come together, right? Like that's the answer. It's not about charity. It's about what's it called? I can't.
Mutual aid.
Mutual aid. It's about mutual aid. It's about communities coming together as equals to raise each other up. And I feel like without the institutions that we all rely on and think are the only solutions to our problems, that there would be more organic community solutions, more mutual aid situations. So it's not about like destroying and smashing and changing it overnight. It's about supporting and funding and putting all your attention and energy into communities that are building new ways of being with each other in the world.
Amen. I really think that communities are the age of Aquarius, right? It's communities coming together, smaller, micro niched, hyper local communities supporting one another and raising up the consciousness of the planet and continuing to bat away. Here's the thing. I love the free market economy that allows folks like you and me who have unique ideas to create them and make money from them and provide value in the world. But then I also question a whole entire country that spends so much on military spending that could just be eliminating poverty and homelessness. And
that could be a choice. We could without capitalism and our current structures for money, with a real emphasis on rest. What if everybody had enough time to get all the sleep they need and spend lots of time in that liminal sacred space where they have access to the divine? Because I got off topic, but you asked me about that and I'll come back to it. Just that, like, in that space between sleep and awake, in that space without resistance, because that's really what you're creating. And that's what you're trying to create in meditation, right? Is the space without resistance, without any thought momentum in any specific direction, just in a really still place. But again, this still place that's positive, not this still place that's going negative. So that is what you can accomplish, this really still place without resistance when you're resting. That you said walk up the spiral. And I feel like in my daily life, I have to walk up instead of slide down. But I feel like in that space, I float. In that space, I float up the spiral. It is effortless. It is effortless to float. And so when you're in that liminal space and you are not stressed and floating is the natural way of being, then it is the ultimate place for inspiration. We can look into the past and see examples of those we consider visionaries and geniuses who talk about, if we read their diaries, taking time to sit alone and think, right? We know that our whole understanding of Newtonian physics started sitting doing nothing under a tree, sitting doing nothing, resting. We're not highlighting these aspects of the truth of history that we know and understand because they are not in line with our current values. So we're not pointing the spotlight being like, now the real point of the story here is he was sitting under that tree doing nothing. That's the point. The point is not that the apple fell and that he mathematically comprehended what was happening. The point is he was sitting under the tree doing nothing. You cannot have inspiration without sitting under the tree doing nothing. Like, it doesn't exist. And when you're in that space, lay in your bed, get so comfy. I know some people love their beds. And if not, create a bed you love. Create the bed you love. Make it your highest priority.
The cheapest way,
better quality sleep.
the cheapest way to create a bed you love is foam. Like I have 3 layers of foam on my hard bed, and it is comfy, cozy, and just like Drake says, I only love my bed and my mom. I'm sorry. It's not true. I love a lot of things, but I love my bed.
Dude, you should. That's a wonderful thing to do. It's wonderful to love your bed. It's a privilege to love your bed. It's a privilege to have a safe, secure place to rest. And we should be relishing in that privilege every moment we get to take advantage of it, and creating more space for ourselves to take advantage of it more, because in that space of resting, when you go to bed before you're ready to pass out because you've been watching Netflix all night, like when you go to bed before, and you put down your phone before you're ready to pass out, before you're falling asleep and dropping it on your face, you put down your phone and you rest, you just give yourself zero expectation. There's no pressure on you. Just relax and just try to enjoy that you're doing nothing. Try to enjoy how restful it is. Try to enjoy how comfortable you are. Try to enjoy everything, like really relish the rest and let your mind drift, let it float up the spiral and see what fun, creative inspiration comes to you. See what important truths about yourself come to you. See what solutions about the things that are bothering you that come to you, and see how much you're inspired again. Rest is inspiring. It's so inspiring. People are like, I'm not inspired. You're not inspired because you're burnt out. You're burnt out because you're not resting enough. And it's not about just sleeping. Like that's really the most important part, is it's not about just sleeping. It's about truly, truly resting and floating up the spiral and seeing what there is to offer you. And there's so much goodness. Like the universe is dying to inspire you. It always wants to inspire you. There are like just rainbow magic flooded towards you all the time. But if you're not quiet and still to hear it and receive it, then that's not a lack of inspiration, like that's a faulty premise. There is infinite inspiration. The universe is filled with inspiration, and you are an inspired being. So rest so that you can align with your inspiration,
And like we were saying, everyone is born a genius. I really truly believe each and every one of us has unique dreams and desires on our heart that are not what our parents thought we should do, not what society tells us we should do, not what the institutions tell us to do. It's what we are inspired uniquely to do. And all of that comes together to level up humanity. And it doesn't take that many of us to come alive and to make those commitments in order to really make a big change and a shift in the world. And I'm glad you're doing it. I'm really grateful I'm doing it. And I'm grateful to anyone out there who even has an inkling of doing that, because we need you. We need people who have come alive and who are committed to being their best and bringing their best.
Legit.
Do you have any parting words?
Yeah. So just get more sleep, take time for rest, prioritize yourself. Like, I've been following, an account on Instagram called the Nap Ministry, for a couple of years now, but never understood the gospel of rest until COVID. And so if there is anything I can like lend you by the way of faith so that you can fake it till you make it, like if I can empower you or ordain you a sleeper, a rester, like a keeper of the sacred truth of the gift of rest, if I can endow you to claim it for yourself, for your own life, so that you can shift your relationship with reality, with yourself, and with being through giving yourself more gentleness, more rest, and more grace, then that's everything I want to do. Yeah.
Oh, you deserve it. You deserve good rest and good sleep. It helped us, since we're all just love hurtling on a space rock. I love you so much, Deidra. I'm so glad I get to do life alongside you. You're one of my favorites. Bye,
Thanks
everybody.